Hi, you guys, and welcome to the Plot Twist Podcast, episode 22, I believe. My name is Katharina, which is a German Catherine. I am coming to you from Berlin, Germany, which is where I grew up and where I now live with my husband and our 3 kids. This is a slow fashion podcast focusing primarily on knitting. You can find me on the internet on Instagram as Katharina Knits, on Ravelry for our podcast group, or as Frau Christ. You can send me an email to hello@plottwistyarns.com, and I will link all of those places down below for you in the description box, so you can click on the links to the individual places where you can find me, and also to my project pages for whatever it is I'm talking about, or links to other podcasters I might mention, and so on and so forth. So all of those details, all of this information is going to be ready for clicking down below this video. Okay. Hello, you guys. So, almost 2 weeks have passed. I am sitting back down with you. So, yay, because I didn't think that was going to work throughout the summer break, because my kids are still on summer break. But it did, and I'm very happy about it. And I have a few things to show you, both in terms of finished objects and my current works in progress, obviously, and then a few other things to share with you. And yes, I'm very excited to be sitting down with you again, so that we can chat and catch up, and I can hang out with you a little bit. So let's jump right into the finished objects. I have 2 unusual finished objects for me because they're crochet. So you may remember this little buddy that I crocheted for my daughter for Easter, and he turned out so fun. It was a quick little project. That is a free pattern, like all of her patterns. She's called Jillian, and the website, which I'm linking down below for you, is Spin a Yarn Crochet, I think. That should be it. That's also her Instagram handle, and she has so many Amigurumi crochet patterns. They're so amazing. And my friend, a very good friend of mine, and I'm the godmother of her oldest daughter, who's the same age and a close friend of my oldest son. So they sort of grew up together, and we're moving at the end of October, and they have already moved just a good month ago to a city about like an hour away. So that's cool, because that means they're still within reach. We can visit on weekends. And well, she has asked me for like a specific occasion whether I could crochet her 2 amigurumis for her daughters, because well, so that she can give them, and so on and so forth. So I did that, and I told her, go through all of those free patterns and say which ones speak to you most. And she said, well, actually the butterfly is a candidate. And so I crocheted a little butterfly, and see, they're really fun, and their wings actually flap. I was thinking of attaching the head to the wings, because they may flap so much so that the head tilts forward a little bit. Because what I think happened is you crochet the individual wings before you attach them to the body of the butterfly, and then you stitch across where the main color goes over the wing. You stitch across to give it a bit of a structure, see? And I think I might have overdone it. I think I pulled a little too tight and gave those wings a little too much structure, so that the wings tend to flap back and the head tends to flip forward a little bit. And I might just, with 2 stitches, attach the head to the wings. I don't know. But maybe that's a good idea. I don't know. I'll see. I'll see what I see. And then there is the other one. Yeah, I might do that, because even now I keep holding up the head. But so that's the other little butterfly, and that's the 2 of them together. Hello. Aren't they so much fun? I think they're really neat and very cute and just very precious. I can't wait to gift them and see which girl chooses which one, or she might, I don't know, distribute them. It doesn't matter, but I think they're fun. They're visibly different so that they don't get mixed up. I didn't want to make two gray ones. Hold on, this is gray. Two gray ones or two blue ones, but I thought they were a good enough match. Also, the wings have the same colors, but not exactly. So here there is the blue in it, and here there's a different shade of pink in it. So they weren't exactly identical. Oh yeah, I'm definitely attaching those little heads, otherwise they keep bobbing. Well, and that's my two finished objects for this week. I am glad to have them off my needles, if only off my hook, if only for the reason that, you know, now I can't have them ready too late, because at some point I was worried that I was going to be so late with this project, because crochet tends to take me a while since my neck doesn't, you know, allow for me to crochet hours on end, because then it will like all cramp up. And yeah, so I powered through as much as I could without, you know, getting real pain. And I'm really happy that I've had these done for, I want to say 5-6 days, so about a week, and they're waiting to be picked up. I'm gonna attach the heads just ever so slightly. You won't even see, I don't think. And then they can be gifted to little girls. Okay. And then I have another project that you will remember if you've been here before, but it's not exactly in the finished object category. I'm including it in here anyways because I gave it a mid-project block and trim. And I'm talking about my jelly roll blanket. You may remember that all the ends from all the color changes were dangling, and I gave this, once I finished the last stripe that I was working on, I gave this a soak, and then once it was dry, I snipped off all the ends, except obviously for the ones that, hold on, where can you see that? Except for the ones on top that will be woven in once I pick up for the I-cord edge. So those, of course, I did not snip off. They will be woven in when I pick up the stitches for the I-cord. So the very first incredibly long round that you go around the blanket for an I-cord, you just pick up stitches, and with every stitch that I'm going to pick up, I'm going to weave the tails over and then under the stitch, right? So I'm going to put it over the stitch that I pick up and then under the next, and so on, so that it all gets woven in, and then I don't have to actually weave in with a needle. So that's what I always do with those sorts of situations. So I'm going to show you my blanket as it is now because I finished my last strip. So if you remember, that was the orange one. So I included this fun self-striping Nicole C. Mendez because I was running out a little bit of orange yarn, but that was intended for that stripe, so that's cool. And I think the rest is everything that I've shown on here before. So I'm holding this up so you can take a look at it before this goes into hibernation, possibly, or maybe I'll cast on the next stripe tomorrow. I don't know, but I wanted for this to have a little bit of the feeling of not like this is finished, because it's not, but it's not as much of a work in progress, because now I have 6, hold on, where are you? 6 stripes finished. So if I add on another 6 or 8 would be ideal, then I think it's wide enough for a blanket, also for the length that it is. And it was a weird noise in the apartment. Did you hear that? That was weird. I'm sorry. So that would be a good width. And because I'm somewhat midway through, I wanted to just give myself a break and get rid of all of those dangly bits that were strewn across the blanket. So now I'm going to show you the thing in hopefully all its glory, because I don't know how it's going to fit on the screen, but that's always an issue with blankets, right? Okay, here we go. Hold on. So there you go. This is my jelly roll blanket. So this is a pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. I knit this on a 2.5mm needle, which is, I never remember, goodness, a US size 1.5. I made a mental note and also recorded it on camera because I spoke about it to you guys. For future me, to maybe not knit every blanket on a 2.5mm needle, but go for a slightly bigger one. Like with fingering weight, I could have upgraded at least to a 3mm or 3.5. I don't know. I made this, I guess I wanted the dense fabric that I also had for my, what's it called? Not Granny Square, a Cozy Memories blanket. That was also knit on a 2.5mm needle, but I could have remembered at the time how long it took me, and let's not get into that, but you know, for the future, so for the next scrappy blanket that I'm undoubtedly going to cast on once this is done, I am going to go for a slightly smaller, oh no, hold on, goodness, that would be horrible, for a bigger needle. Let me shoot for a 3.5mm, so that might be good, yeah. Anyway, that is what's become of this project, and I'm very glad that it looks a little more halfway there, that it looks as far into the project as it actually is, because all the ends that I just kept hanging or left hanging, they weren't actually bothering me, but at some point there were just so many that you couldn't really enjoy all the colors in the blanket, and I wanted to have a little bit rest for my eyes, you know. And of course, with the next stripe that I'm going to start, the chaos is going to start again, and that's okay. Okay, so that's that. And that's also that with finished object or half-finished objects or whatever you want to call that, what that blanket is. Now I'm going to show you my latest cast on, because there came a morning when I went through my stash and I came across 2 skeins of yarns, both Raumafinel, so a non-superwash Norwegian yarn, yeah. And I bought one yellow and one very dark green, and I wanted to make another half and half triangles wrap, but a tiny one, so that I could use as sort of decoration on the table, as a small, I don't know if centerpiece is the right word, but like as a little sheet or rug or whatever it is that you can put in the middle of a large dining table, which we don't do that often, but I sometimes like it. And I thought, since we're moving, and there isn't much we can do now because we are waiting. I mean, we know that within 3 months we'll already be living there, hopefully, but we're still waiting on the keys. We're still waiting for everything to happen, for bureaucracy to happen. So that's a weird period, sort of, that we're in. That's a weird phase of life when you know such big changes are coming and you're moving to a different area entirely. So we're moving away from really city center Berlin to the countryside, and there's a lot that we have to do there, like on the property and also in the rooms that we're going to live in. And then there's a lot of like old stables, and I feel like I want to prepare so much. I want to be so active in this process and now be doing something that we can all like benefit on. I feel like I want to be involved in that process now, and it's so hard because we cannot even enter the house, so there isn't much that we can do, and we're not packing up our apartment until we can, you know, go there to do the renovation that has to be done and then eventually move. So we're in that weird sort of limbo, And I really feel drawn to knitting things for the new home so that I feel like I can do something. And of course, there are other things that I can do. Like I can provide for my kids so that they can really enjoy the last weeks in Berlin that we have and really enjoy them as normal everyday life without too much fuzz. We can meet people that I know we're going to meet the last time while we actually live here, whom we're of course going to meet in the future, but it's just different when you live around the corner or in the same city. So, and we can go places that we want to go once more, so we can, because we always enjoy doing that, or also because we've maybe never been, and or the kids haven't. And so there's a lot that I can do, of course, to prepare for the move. And also we are decluttering to prepare for the move. So all of those things are very important, but I feel very drawn to also like knitting for the new house so that I can do something, you know, in terms of preparing for our coziness. I cannot now go there and start renovating. And I don't know if I can in 2-3 weeks time, but I hope, but who knows. But I do want to be able and do something. So I bought those 2 skeins of Ramafinol because that's where I started, you know, that on that tangent, with a half and half triangles wrap in mind that you can put on your table and then put on a vase or a candle or whatever, so that it just looks nice and cozy. And I think woolen decoration just makes a house feel very warm and cozy. And this is an old farm, so we're gonna want that coziness, and chances are we're also gonna need it because it's big and drafty and, you know. So I thought I'm gonna knit one of those. And then I tucked them away and I didn't immediately start, and I didn't exactly forget, but when I looked at those 2, I thought, oh yeah, I wanted to make that half and half triangles wrap. It's always been on my mind every now and then, but not like currently. And I thought, that's stupid. I mean, it's 2 skeins, 2 50-gram balls, so it's not like it's a whole lot of yarn. I can knit those up and have those out of my stash because I would like to downsize my stash before the move. And just be happy about the finished object so that I feel like I said, I can do something to prepare for our new house and home. And so I cast on. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to tell you why there is this color blocking situation going on, because there's definitely more than 1 skein involved here. 2, hold on, more than 2, because I bought 2 especially, but you're going to see 4 colors. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to show you as best as I can. Here you are. Ta-da! So this is obviously the first triangle done. I don't know if you've ever knit a half and half triangles wrap. I was very resistant to it. I can link you up here or up there where one of my videos, where maybe the one where I finished my half and half triangles wrap, because at some point I almost want to say I gave in because I really didn't want to do that, but then I realized, oh, I think they might be really fun, and knit one with this yarn, not, hold on, what's going on here? Oh, it's all good. With, yeah, that color was in it, but not the yellow, but with the Ramafinol. It's a beast. I mean, it's gigantic. It's so big and so cozy. And no, I haven't worn it because I finished it in, I don't know, April or May or something, when it started getting warm. I don't know. It's again a day where no, it's not a language day that I'm having, but I want to talk fast, and talking fast in a foreign language sometimes leads to me eating up syllables or switching sounds, which I maybe don't normally do, but yeah, so you're just gonna have to bear with me there. And yeah, anyway, so I wanted to make a mini version, right? And I have made another mini version, but that sounds like mini virgin. I wanted to make a mini version And I've made another that's smaller with a different yarn. But so I was very much looking forward to this yarn again. So, and especially this lovely mustard yellow. And then I bought, to go with it, this sort of green. I'm going to hold it up close because I don't think you can see that this is actually green. Maybe you can now. And this is the color that went across just right here. See that darker stripe? Well, maybe it's not enough to really tell. I'm going to tell you the colors. So those that I intended for this exclusively with really traditional one side one color and the other triangle the other color are 4025. So that's the dark green one. And where did I write it down? And the yellow is 450 of Rama Final. So I'm going to show you the tag. Right, and so there's a story. Of course, there's a story there. I thought I was such a good girl, and on my big half and half triangles wrap, that one, if you've never seen it, so one triangle is striped all the way up. So with the same width each, so 20 garter ridges each for each stripe. So, and that gave me, I think, 13 stripes. Yes. And in the end, I weighed the yarn that I'd left over and figured out how many grams I used for each color. And then I wrote this down on my Ravelry page because I thought if I'm ever going to knit this again, I'm going to revisit, and if I'm ever going to stripe this again, I'm going to go back and refer back, because I thought this might be useful information, because before I use the scraps for something else and I can no longer tell, how much I used of the individual colors. Maybe the problem was that I didn't weigh the balls of yarn before, because and maybe that they weren't 50 but 51 grams or 51 and a half, or I don't know what, which didn't actually occur to me at the time. Maybe that's the issue here, because I went back to my Ravelry page and then I added the grams from the smallest stripes to where I would hit 50, so that I knew how many stitches to cast on with a 50 gram ball, right? So I sort of went backwards because I wanted to get the small triangle and not start at the bottom, because that wouldn't help me really. And I figured, and I left a margin there. I figured I could cast on 110 stitches with that 50 gram ball and make it all the way to the tip, and then join the second color for the other triangle. That's what I figured. As I was knitting on this, I thought, hold on, I don't think this is going to work. Because, well, it eventually became clear that it was just not going to work, that the yarn wasn't going to last me. And you see, I mean, the rows are getting smaller and smaller, so the yarn that I needed here isn't that much, but the yellow did not suffice. And I did not want to run and get new yarn, because I had so many scraps from my other half and half triangles wrap from the big one, and that is exactly the same yarn, just in different colors. And I thought, I envision it one way, but I can change my plan. And I thought of Stephen West, and he said, whenever you run out of yarn, consider it a color opportunity. And I thought, okay, so here we go. I chose a color that I think goes perfectly with this green. I love this. I mean, I love the colors individually. I'm not usually a yellow person, but this, to me, this looks really amazing. And then I joined. I'm going to show you this better, because it's only the smallest, teensiest tip right here. Can you see? That's the beginning of the next triangle right there. No, I cannot show you so that you can see it. So I'm going to show you the yarn, and I'm sort of in a 2-ball situation here because when I wanted to pull out the half the skein came out, half the ball came out. That's number 134, and the yarn is 2-ply Jameson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight. So that's the yarn I'm talking about. See? And look at this beautiful color, which is a red sort of purple. And that is going to be attached here, you know, next to the green or teal, or however you want to call that color. And then I'm going to add in the dark green for the rest of the skeins of the triangle, so somewhere down here, so that I get a bit of a similar situation as here. I think I'm going to knit maybe 3 garter ridges more with the red or purple or whatever you want to call it before I add in the other, so the darker color here. And I don't mind that you're going to see that color running up through the middle. I actually enjoy that. I think it's going to look fun. But for the part where the second triangle is going to be the widest, that's where I'm going to use up that skein, or almost, because I use some yarn to go back and forth in the middle. So I'm going to make it so I don't have to play yarn chicken yet again. I'd rather have 2 grams left in the end than not make it and have to add, well, either a back or add in another color for the last ridge or something like that. So I don't want for that to happen. And I don't want it to be super colorful. I wanted this to be just, well, I mean, the tones are all pretty moody except for the yellow, so that the yellow still sort of gets to clash with the green like I want it and still stands out. I didn't want to add in like pink or something. So that's the long story of that teeny tiny project, which gives me a lot of joy though, and it knits up very fast. I have to say my main motivation is, well, yes, finishing it for the house so that we have another little thing to, you know, that I have the feeling that I can do something and provide for us in a small little way. But also knitting with that yarn is just, I mean, it's just so amazing. This yarn is really Ramafineur, that is also 2-ply jumper weight, that it actually feels exactly the same, I think. And it knits up to exactly the same gauge for me. They're so amazing. Truly, so amazing. Oh, and I wanted to tell you all the colors, and I didn't. So the yellow is the 450, and this turquoise greeny situation is 484. And the other, I told you, the other two. And I'm knitting this on a 3.5mm needle, which I think is US size 4. And that is just the perfect needle size, I think, for that yarn with that project with my tension. So that is just perfect. I was so happy with that needle and the yarn combined for the other 1/2 triangles wrap that I didn't even think twice about it. I ran, fetched the needles, and started the project, and I'm a happy camper. I can say that. That has sort of, that project, well, is what I knit on now all the time, monogamously. I've knit on this monogamously over the span of, I don't know, 3-4 days, so not forever. But before, I've still been very much on a sock kick, and I'm getting back to them. And I can show you the sock that I don't think I had casted on last time, or maybe I just had the cuff, or I don't know. But anyway, so now I can show you my, I think, 4th pair of Rainbow Connection socks. So this is a pattern by Kay Jones, no, not Kay Jones, but Kay Litton of The Crazy Sock Lady. And I've shown this before, and I'm gonna show it again. This pattern is so fun. So if you're looking for a fun, soon to be mindless sock pattern because it's easy to memorize, this is really the thing for you. These are so fun to knit up. So you have a pattern with slip stitches on the instep and with just plain 2x2 stripes on the back of the leg and on the leg back of the foot or sole of the foot. And I love this pattern. I love the place where those stripes collide, where you can see them coming from both directions, but also just looking at the instep makes me really happy. I'm going to hold them up close a little bit. Hold on. Isn't that a fun pattern? And so I cast on 60 stitches, which is not a number of stitches that the pattern accounts for. It's so easy to adjust. Like you can cast on the number of stitches that fits your foot, and then just adjust the pattern. Like it's really easy. You just stop at the whatever count you're at, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The only question is like whether you end sort of on a blue stripe or on a yellow stripe before you start the back of the foot, and it really doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't. So I cast on 60 stitches. I went with my usual 2.25 millimeter needle, and that is a US size 1. I knitted 2x2 ribbing, so to knit to purl. Knit 2, purl 2, that's how I say it. For I think 14 rounds. And then I went straight into the pattern. Yeah, that's what I did. And I included my usual heel flap and gusset, which is hard to show on camera, but I mean, you know what a heel flap looks like. That's it. And now I'm past the gusset decreases. Yeah, well, I'm halfway through the foot. So this really flies. I mean, I should really knit on it because this is going to be off my needles before you know it. And interestingly, also with yellow yarn. I don't know what's going on because that is really, really unusual for me. What is this? So I cast on with a 2.5 millimeter needle. So again, hold on. With a 1.5 US because that gives me more stretch on the cuff, and I can show you the yarn that this is. So I went through my stash and picked out Mondim sock yarn, so that's that. And so this is non-superwash sock yarn, and don't you worry about your socks because even though there is no nylon in there, they're going to be sturdy. The only thing is you cannot have too loose of a gauge because that will always be not ideal for your socks, and then they can wear through faster. So you want to have a reasonably tight gauge, not a super tight gauge, and so you don't have to like pick an extra small needle that you would never pick for other socks, but just see to it that it's not too loose of a situation, and then you should be really fine. And you can trust this yarn and just wear your socks even if there's no nylon in it. It's so much better for the environment, and it's a really nice yarn to wear on your foot too, I feel like. I mean, everybody has a different opinion on every yarn with respect to how sensitive you are or not, or I don't know what. I like this very much. Like, I don't find this scratchy at all. And where is it? And I feel like the socks last as long as every other sock. So I would say give it a go if this is a yarn that's at all available to you, or maybe some equivalent. And yeah, I wanted to tell you the number of when it's torn. So 113 is the blue. That's the blue yarn. Or the sort of, the blue. And the yellow is 211, and the skein looks like this. Isn't that so pretty? It's very pretty. And I had those in my stash, and now I'm happy that I can do something with those socks. And I think I'm going to gift them eventually, but now I'm happy knitting them. And this lives in my little Mondim bag. And that's a happy little project right there. I have another small project bag with another sock project in it. And that, yes, that also falls in the category of preparing for the move. Because I told you last time that I recorded that I wanted to knit socks for my boys who are ages 5 and 8, that they can wear in their rain boots and that go all the way up to their knees. They don't usually wear hand knit socks because we have wooden floors and I would just slither and fall all the time. And that will pretty much be the same situation in a new house, maybe even worse, I don't know. And they are so warm that they won't wear warm socks and then house shoes over it. So it's either one or the other, so I went for the other, that they are safe. But they're going to have, we're going to have a big garden, and they're going to be outside, come rain or shine. So, and that's the entire idea, so that we get to go out into our garden, always. And when they put on their boots in fall, it can be pretty cold in rain boots, right? And so I thought they're going to need those socks, and I might as well cast them on and make them super scrappy, because that way I can use up some of my sock scraps, my scrap yarn for socks. You know what I mean. And I decided to sort of go 2 at a time, but I don't enjoy 2 at a time on one cord. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but I just don't like it. It seems to me like it's unnecessarily slow, and that's what makes me nervous. It's weird. I don't know. I cannot really explain, but I didn't want the whole yarn management, and I thought, okay, so how am I going to do that with the scrappy yarn? So that's going to be such a mess. But I went for knitting them parallelly, 2 at a time, if you will. So 2 stripes on this sock and 2 stripes on the other, but on 2 separate sets of needles. And I picked my 2, one is a stripe ahead. So see, one is taller than the other already. I picked my 2 Xiaogu red laces, 2.25 millimeters. Again, always for socks. That is always my sock needle. I'm going to show you one first. Picked a scrap yarn, and you may remember this from my other socks that I showed you last week. Just green scrap yarn that must be Lang Yarn's Jawohl, so that is a German commercial sock yarn. Cast on 60 stitches, I think, because I figured my kids, they're so tall and they will have to pull it up to their knees, so I don't want it to be too tight so that it's going to fit for a while and so that they're not going to complain. Yeah, I figured if it's a little bit too elastic, I can put in one of those elastic threads and make it a little tighter, right? Rather have it a little bit too loose than too snug and it won't fit at all. So because that I would not be able to fix, I would have to knit anew. So I went for a pretty long cuff. I don't know what that is. Well, 18 rounds maybe. So again, 2x2 ribbing for like 16 or 18 rounds. And then I added in a scrap yarn for about, I'm going to hold up close. So see, I added in a scrap yarn for 10 rounds and switched to a 3x1 ribbing so that they were going to cling to the leg and not, floop down. Floop down, is that a word? Not be too loose. You know what I mean. So then I added in 10 rounds of the stripy yarn, the scrappy yarn, I mean, and then 5 rounds of a contrasting color. So that is a green that I've had in my stash. The other green that you will have seen on, for the other socks that I finished last time that we spoke, so sort of like 2 weeks ago, I think. This is Filcolana Avetta, another commercial sock yarn. Very sturdy. Just like those scraps, so this is all sort of the same family. And then again, 10 rounds of scrap yarn and another 5 rounds of 10 grams, 10 rounds. Then another 5 rounds of the same green. Then again, 10 rounds of the scrap yarn, and that I think is what finished this scrappy ball. And then I will have to add another 5 rounds of the green, and so you get the idea. So the first and third stripe are the same scrappy yarn, and then the second and what's going to be the fourth are also going to be the same. And I still have some of this left, so this scrap looks just like this. I don't know, this looks like it's been an opal. I'm pretty sure this is an opal yarn. No idea what the colorway is, none at all. And this is my leftover from the other stripe. This is just a scrap yarn from my mother-in-law, so I don't have any tags or anything at all. So I'm sorry, I cannot tell you what all of this is. I don't know if I'm going to get another set of 10 rounds, so 2 stripes each out of, you know, this little thing. And I wasn't smart enough to weigh before. Oh, I can do it with the other stripe with the other yarn. Yes, that's what I'll do, because I knit those on a very long car ride. So, and I didn't have a scale with me, and also I wouldn't have bothered, you know, in the car. But so, yeah, hence the confusion. But that's the other sock. I'll hold it upside down for you so you can compare. So, I mean, the green stripes don't provide a lot of contrast. I thought I could have gone for a different color that sort of flashes more or clashes more with those stripes. But then again, I like that it's not super bright and in your face, but that it blends together a little bit. And I think my sons are going to appreciate it. And also they love green, so they're not going to care. Also, now I think I might have started with a green 5-round repeat. So with this sort of contrasting color before the first scrappy stripe. But then again, they're not going to care. So that's the amount of progress that I made. So here I might actually be almost, no, well, I'm going to have to add one, you know, contrasting stripe of the green and then another scrappy stripe. And then I'm going to go for the heel. And then I'm going to decide on how to proceed for the foot, because those scraps are not going to last forever. I have a green scrappy yarn, another thing from my mother-in-law's scrap collection that, so for that reason, is also unknown. But it's also a green, and it might be very green. So it might be super green if I add that in, and then there will be no contrast whatsoever. So I don't know. Maybe I'll use that for the heel. I'll see what I see. There's always going to be enough sock yarn that I can, you know, knit into this, so don't you worry. I can also, there's tons of things that you can do when you run out of yarn on a scrappy sock. So there is no wrong way to knit a scrappy sock, so I'm not worried at all. I'm also not in a rush to get those done, but I want to work on them every, you know, so often, so that I make progress and that I can actually prepare for those fall days out in the rain or in the wet grass or whenever they're going to wear their rain boots. And I'm also going to need 2 pairs of these socks, right? So this is just going to be the first pair, and then another one for the other boy. And then I'm going to have to see what I'll do with my daughter, whether I can knit her some of those sockies. So that's going to be a smaller project because she's only 2.5. But I mean, having said that, she's not small. We don't have small kids. They're all really tall, and we'll see. But she will want her pair as well. I don't know. I'll get to that when I'll get to that. But so this is the first pair of socks that I'm now working on for the boys for the new house, period. And then I did something fun yesterday when I went to my mother-in-law's place, who because she lives in the same building as we do. So I went to her apartment and used her serger, I think is what you call it. We call it an overlock machine, but I think it's what you call a serger. So she has a sewing machine that will just that will finish off any edge very nicely, much nicer than the usual zigzag stitch that you get on your machine, which is just what I have. I'm not a seamstress, and I'm not going to be one. I realized that again yesterday. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but so my contribution for the mending segment this week is the following. I had a whole lot of, again, basically scraps from torn blankets and such, you know? So cotton yarn, soft enough to the touch, from, you know, pieces well loved, but too destroyed to still keep in rotation. So I cut out all the pieces that were really gone, and then I saved the rest of the fabric so that I can make handkerchiefs or reusable toilet paper. And yes, I know, hear me out, but I figured, so for my daughter, I have cloths to like wipe her off, and I'm going to wash those and reuse them. I'm not going to use them for anything else, but so I don't throw them away. Why wouldn't I or we also like use toilet paper, reusable cloth toilet paper, and throw that in the wash and just reuse it? I mean, if there's only pee on it, and I'm sorry if that's what we're talking about, but I do want to talk about that. If you only have a little bit of pee, like a few drops of pee on your cotton, you know, on your cotton toilet paper, you can put that in the wash and reuse it, because that's not going to be gross, right? And you can throw that in any wash because it really doesn't matter that much. Which other things it's going to be washed with. If you feel more comfortable, you can always put it in with your towels or sheets so it gets washed at a higher temperature. What you can also do is just iron it after the wash, just like you would do with handkerchiefs, to get them germ-free. So if that's something you're worried about, you can always, you know, do that and then have really clean, definitely germ-free reusable toilet paper. So because I figured if it's just for pee, why do I have to go and buy paper that has to be produced and shipped and all the things and then thrown away, right? And so I had a lot of scrap fabric, and I used the serger to just, and well, mind you, this is pretty messy, but to just sew around the edges. I'm going to show it more closely to you, so that I have, like in this case, a handkerchief, or I mean, you can use these cloths for whatever it is that you want to do around the house, right? You can clean with those, or like put a few of them in your bag for your kids when you're out and about, or in the car for when you need to wipe something off, or I don't know what, you know? So I have a handful of those, like a good amount. And then I went for different colors because I wanted a little bit of variation. I was such a novice with a serger that I didn't even know you needed 4 identical yarn cones, like not yarn cones, thread. So 4 times the thread that you're going to use to sew. 4 cones of those. How do you say that? But I hope you know what I mean. So you need 4 sort of spools of the same thread to sew with. I didn't know that. So I just combined 4 different ones, and I thought this is going to be a handkerchief, so I really don't have to win a prize. And I'm just going to see what I see and how it turns out. And I put 2 pinks in and a red and a very light blue, which you cannot see at all. It ended up on the back. And so well, that's what it looks like. I haven't given them a wash or ironed them, apparently, obviously. So these are as crinkly as I took them out of my bag, where, out of, storage basically, when I sat down to, search them. But I wanted to show you on the podcast anyway. And this is what the dark looks like. Well, I'm really not a pro and it shows, but well, that's just the way it is. And I don't know if you can see the particulars of this seam. It is not as neat as it could be, but here's the thing about sewing for me. I realized that yesterday because I've asked myself for quite a while why sewing is really something that is not second nature to me, because I'm too impatient. Because knitting is so much slower. So wouldn't I be impatient there rather, And I'm not an impatient knitter. It's not my problem that I want things off my needles faster. Only maybe sometimes so I can cast on something new. But I'm not worried by the slowness of knitting, on the contrary. And I mean, sewing is also a slow craft, if you will, but it's obviously so much faster than knitting. So why do I become so impatient? And I realized yesterday, and it's as stupid as it gets, but I want to push down the pedal. I want to sew fast because I can, because the machine will go pretty fast. With knitting, I'm a fast knitter, but it's as fast as I go. There is no pedal I can push to knit faster. But with the machine that I have in front of me, like even with hand sewing, it would be a different story, because that it takes the time that it takes, to hand sew. But with the machine, you can go faster. And I want to push down the pedal more. And what happens is, well, seams get wonky, or you make mistakes, or the corners don't look like they could, which I really am not worried by, because this is a handkerchief. But see, this is a bit of a wonky corner. I mean, I don't care. But I think what is triggered there, with handkerchiefs, it really doesn't matter. But if you sew a garment, you have to be very intentional about every line. Sometimes you top stitch, so that has to be, well, that better look good, because otherwise it's going to make it look much worse than it would without the top stitching. And you have to intentionally go slow when you could also go fast, just so to make it look right and fit right and be right, because you put in all the effort, so you want for it to fit you right, and also to look nice and not look super wonky, and you want a nice garment. And that is always the hard part for me, and it's really that stupid, or that basic. It's so hard for me to intentionally go so slow on sewing, even if in the end it's even such a faster craft than knitting. But that's what's really holding me up. And with that desire to just push down the pedal a little faster, so I get to the end of that row just a little bit faster, even if it's so stupid, but that prevents me from creating the garment that I want, from that making it sort of perfect enough so that I will consider it a success, and that is really, I think, that is my impatience in that scenario, because I wouldn't consider myself an impatient person, but combined with my perfectionism that with sewing just slaps me in the face. I don't know. But when I realized that this weekend, I thought, oh no, this week, so well, yesterday basically, I thought, that's interesting. It's about the speed and about the intentional slowness. And isn't that a lesson in life? I mean, hello, why is it hard for me to be intentionally slow with something? So that is something I still need to think about, and I need to, I guess, figure out what I can do about that, because I think it's good to be intentionally slow with things in life. also, I mean, I'm a knitter. I am able, but then again, well, if I knit as fast as I can, it's still a slow craft. Like I said, there isn't a pedal for knitting. Anyway, so I think that's sort of my thing with sewing, and this is why I'm never going to be a seamstress. And for the toilet paper, the sheets are sort of half or even smaller, the size. And yeah, so that's what I made. This is my mending segment in the sense that it's an upcycling project or reusing what you would otherwise just throw away. And yeah, and that's that. So in a way, those pieces are mended by my making handkerchiefs out of those old torn sheets or whatever this was. This must have been linen. Yeah, so sheets from our bed. I don't even remember because some of those pieces of fabric have been laying around for a minute or two, and I collected, so for some of those I remember exactly, and for others, I mean, white linen, well, all look the same. But yeah, I wanted to tackle this project for as long as I still have the serger in the same building. I can use it whenever I want. I did not want to schlep this to our new house unfinished. I wanted to also be able and distribute those a little bit. So there's a friend who's for sure going to get a few handkerchiefs because I know she's just going to use them. So back here in Berlin, and yeah, so I wanted to also like have this off my back because I keep thinking, oh, I meant to do that, and I would never make the time, and sometimes I forgot about this project and those scrap fabrics all together, and I'm so happy that I finally got around to doing it, and I made a whole bunch, like a whole lot, so more than we are going to be able to use, but that's good because I meant to give some of those away. And next week I'm going to pick another day to go over there and serger my way through the rest of the pile, which is about the same size yet again. So yes, that is my mending, upcycling, whatever you want to call it, contribution for this week. As for what I've been watching, I watched the BBC version of Pride and Prejudice, the 1995, I think, version again, because I'm a rewatcher, a chronic rewatcher. I've obviously watched this before a handful of times, but I rewatched it now after I'd finished it. So the next day is when I started it anew. It's just an evergreen. I think you can always put that on. It's never boring. It's never lame. It's never, oh, I've seen that already, but it's always like, oh, now this is going to happen. Look at what Mr. Darcy does now. It's so funny. It's really just such a joy. And then I watched Austenland on Netflix, which I had seen years ago, and I could honestly remember nothing except for it being super colorful. And now I really watched it for the first time, if you want to, because I really remember nothing at all, except the blonde supporting role. I don't know now the actress's name, but she's called Charming, Miss Charming, I think. So the loud one, so fun. And yeah, I mean, it's a fun rom-com basically. And well, I'm sorry to say I've also rewatched that because I was knitting on my half and half, I think, when I first watched it, and I didn't catch some of the scenes, so I happily rewatched it. That's what I mean. That's what I do. I finished a movie and I started it fresh, sometimes on the same day if I have the time. I mean, it's a very harmless movie. I'm not sure I buy into the plot twist with the stable boy who changes so much at the end of the movie. That doesn't really make sense to me. It's not really that plausible. I mean, in theory, but not as portrayed on camera, but okay. It doesn't matter because it's just a fun little movie, and yeah, so I watched that to keep to cater to my Jane Austen summer mood It's maybe my summer author, I think, because for a few summers now I've been catching the Jane Austen bug around July or something like that, and then it will go until, I don't know, late September. I don't know, something in that neighborhood. And then I watched. I actually went to the movie theater, which I hardly ever do. Now, I mean, I used to a lot. I've worked at movie theaters, but I haven't in quite a while been to one. And now I went to watch the Barbie movie, and I was pretty. I don't know. In the beginning, when I saw that there was a Barbie movie, and then I thought, who's gonna watch that? You know, why? Why would you do that? And then I saw people actually went to really watch that movie, and I heard other people talk about it, not in my immediately circle of friends, but it was, you know, a topic, and I thought, what? People are really going to watch that movie? Like they pay money and take time out of their lives to watch a Barbie movie? And then I was like the last person to realize who directed the movie, because I listened to the Smartless podcast, right? So fun. I'm also going to link that for you. I'm listening to all my podcasts on Spotify, on the free version. So I listened to Smartless, and they had Greta Gerwig on, and I know her. I mean, I know her of her as an actress and author and director, and really I want to say like one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years or so. Well, yeah, because it's 10 years old now, I think. Yeah, I think I definitely saw this in the movie theater in 2013, is Frances Ha, which I think is a brilliant movie. And by the way, can we talk about Mickey Sumner in that? Mickey Sumner, I think, in that movie, who is the female co-star. She looks just exactly like Cate Blanchett, just younger. Incredible. I'm always just so stunned by that when I see that movie. But okay. And so I had such a high opinion of Greta Gerwig, and I thought, if she does that, there must be a reason for it. So I couldn't imagine how she could put a spin on that, on any narrative to do with Barbie that would be in some way empowering, or maybe even feminist. So for me, she is sort of known for the opposite of Sex and the City. So not for, we talk about a woman and about how much she craves to be with some guy. But she really portrays women together with other women, as in, the two best friends in Frances Ha, or she just talks about women when she talks about women, and not about men, truly, right? So and I thought, how can she? I mean, if anyone can do it, she can do it. But how is that supposed to look? And I thought immediately, I have to watch that movie, absolutely. And then I went and I watched it, and I was very skeptical before, and I'm as skeptical now. I'm a little bit surprised about how everybody praises the movie, because then they say like the movie takes like every sort of criticism you could possibly bring towards a product such as Barbie, and the entire marketing around it, and history of that brand and so on. But then like yes, that is all included in the movie and pretty straightforward, but that doesn't really change anything for me. So because Barbie is all of the things, I don't see a way how to maneuver gracefully out of this with that product that is still pretty much the product that it is. And it's such a huge marketing campaign for that product, the movie is. Then the marketing around the movie has been more expensive than the movie making, right? And this movie must have cost a lot of money. So I don't think that such a huge marketing campaign for a very capitalist and for my taste, rather problematic product that I don't want to preach against, I played with Barbies as a girl, but I wouldn't now go buy them for my kids. If you do that, do it. I'm not going to judge that. That's not at all what I'm trying to do here. But I thought just this is such a huge marketing campaign, and I don't think that Greta Gerwig really should have been a part of this. But having said that, the movie is very funny. In very many places I've laughed hard, and when all the Kens dance towards the end, I thought, oh goodness, I really have to watch this again because I can't look everywhere that I want to look because this is going too fast, and it's brilliant how it's done. Doubtless, this is very funny, and it's a good movie in many places. That's not what I want to say, but I'm overall just not convinced because in the end, what does the movie tell me? Like, I don't have the feeling that there is such a progressive message there as everybody else seems to be convinced that there is. May also say something about me, of course. I don't know. I don't want to bash the movie at all. I think it's really worth seeing, and I think it's very fun. It really is, and in many places, a very fun movie. There is some amazing dialogue in there, and I mean that's not a surprise because Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach wrote it, so that was a given. So it was clear that there was going to be really there were lines I wrote down in the cinema because I thought I cannot forget those. This is amazing. And so that there are two excellent writers at work there, but that is also kind of the problem for me because I think a product and a marketing campaign, a product such as Barbie and the attached marketing campaign doesn't really deserve such good writers as those two. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm going to watch the movie again when it's on some sort of streaming device. I think not device, but when it's on Netflix or wherever. And I'm really interested in how other people perceive that movie. So if you have seen it and you want to share what you thought, or whether you also had reservations, or whether you really love it and find it to be very empowering, then please leave a comment down below if you feel like it. So that would be super interesting. I'm also waiting on some of my friends to go see it so I can ask them what they think. I don't know. It's, I don't know. I have had many thoughts about that movie. Then again, when I walked home from the movie theater, I thought, I'm going to have to think about that for a few days. But then I felt over those next days that there wasn't as much food for thought. I'm a little ill at ease with the movie. Then again, it was great fun watching it, but I don't know what the movie wants to tell me. I really don't. I don't know what the movie wants for me in the end, and that's maybe what's a little unsatisfying to me. Quickly towards the end, my current obsession has been the Minimalists podcast. So on YouTube, and I think I'm going to become a patron to see what that's like. So the content that I'm going to be offered there, how I enjoy it. And maybe I'm just going to be a patron for a month, here and there throughout the year, whenever I feel like now is a moment when I will really be able to use and really take in this sort of content. But I have been watching the Minimalists on YouTube, and I'm going to link that also below in the description box in case you don't know the Minimalists yet. So that's Ryan Nicodemus and Joshua Fields Milburn, I think he's called. I enjoy them a whole lot, and they have another guy on their podcast who's called TK Coleman, I think. I have to say he's actually my favorite because I think he has such insightful, generous comments that seem to come from, I don't know, a place of security, love, understanding, empathy. He has so much empathy. I think his comments are always just so wise and so helpful as well. I think this is a wonderful podcast. It's about stuff and minimalism and decluttering and how to not accumulate new stuff. So this perfectly fits what I'm doing. Like, I'm decluttering and preparing for the move. But it's also so much about the psychology of how we live and why we accumulate stuff and why we want stuff, or why we feel overwhelmed with our stuff, and the entire sort of psychology behind that. And that is just a topic that is forever fascinating to me, even though I've learned a lot about it, both like academically, because that's something I did for my PhD, and also personally, because I've just had a lot of by now it's a pretty long history with decluttering and reading about that. But that podcast really adds so much to the things I already know. Also reminds me of some of the things, because you tend to forget or push them to the back burner. So if you're at all interested in that, then that's a huge recommendation. I mean, that's just what I've been obsessed with over the last 2 weeks. That fits it pretty much, and I'm definitely going to keep watching their podcast. I mean, I've been aware of the minimalists before, but I haven't followed them as closely and their every video. But it adds a lot to my journey right now. So if that's your thing, go check them out. Okay, and other than that, I can only say goodbye and see you next time. Thank you for hanging out with me, or for letting me hang out with you. If there's anything you want to share with me, not just about the Barbie movie, but about what you're knitting on, or I don't know, where you're from, where you're tuning in from, or I don't know, whatever it is that you might want to share, just leave a comment down below. I really appreciate it very much. And I'll be back here in about 2 weeks' time to talk to you again about what I've been making. And happy making. Find something that you can mend in your life, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.